Jake Thompson was a man of the land, a rancher whose roots run deep into the earth of his small, struggling farm. The ranch had been in his family for generations, passed down through the hands of ancestors who had weathered hardships with grit and determination. Yet, despite the blood, sweat, and years of hard work invested, Jake found himself facing a battle he couldn't win alone. His once vibrant ranch was withering under the weight of failing crops, erratic weather, and a dwindling herd of livestock. With each passing season, the ranch seemed to slip further into decline, and with it, Jake's hope for a better future. Jake had always believed in the quiet rhythm of ranch life, the early mornings, the long hours in the fields, and the constant companionship of the animals he cared for. But lately, those rhythms had turned into a haunting reminder of his failures. He found himself at a crossroads, with no clear path forward. The world around him seemed to be closing in, and the pressure to save the ranch was wearing him thin. It was on one of these tough mornings that Jake heard about a local horse auction taking place just a few miles away. A small flicker of curiosity stirred in him. It wasn't much, but it was something to distract him from the constant worry that weighed on his chest. Horses had always been a part of his life, and although the ranch was struggling, Jake had an undeniable connection to these animals. Perhaps, just perhaps, a new addition to the ranch could bring some unexpected change. So, with little more than a prayer in his heart, Jake decided to attend the auction. The barn was filled with people, most of them ranchers like himself, their faces hardened by years of work and disappointment. As Jake scanned the horses being paraded before the crowd, most of them seemed impressive, strong, well-trained animals with striking appearances. But then, he saw them, 3 small fillies, barely able to stand, their coats thin, and their legs unsteady. They looked weak, almost sickly. The crowd murmured and turned away, dismissing them as worthless. And yet, something in Jake's heart told him otherwise. He bid on the fillies, not out of hope, but out of sheer desperation. For a mere $2, they were his. Little did he know, those 3 tiny horses would change his life forever. Among the 3 fillies Jake had purchased, one stood out more than the others, not in strength, but in vulnerability. She was by far the smallest of the trio, her coat a dull shade of gray that seemed more lifeless than the vibrant colors of the other horses. Her legs were uneven, and she struggled to maintain her balance, often stumbling as she tried to follow the others. Jake noticed her immediately, but unlike the other fillies, who appeared to have some potential, this one seemed destined for failure. Her frailty made her look like a lost cause, and in the back of Jake's mind, he wondered if he'd made a mistake. He named her Rose. Jake couldn't explain why he chose that name. It wasn't a name he would have typically associated with such a fragile creature. Maybe it was because, despite her weakness, there was something almost delicate about her, something that reminded him of a rose in the early stages of blooming. Perhaps, if he gave her the right care, Rose might surprise him. Or perhaps he was clinging to a sense of hope, a need to believe that something good could come from his poor decisions. In the days that followed, Jake focused his attention on Rose more than the others. He spent hours each morning and evening tending to her, gently brushing her coat and offering her the best food he had. His hands, calloused from years of hard work, were surprisingly soft when they touched her. He spoke to her in a calm voice, as though trying to reassure her, even though part of him feared that it was already too late. While the other 2 fillies began to show signs of improvement, gaining weight, standing tall, and learning the basic commands, Rose remained frail. She could barely walk without stumbling, and often, she seemed to collapse into the soft earth beneath her. Every time Jake saw her struggle to rise, his heart would tighten with worry. He knew this was a battle she might not win, but still, he couldn't bring himself to give up on her. There were moments of frustration when Jake questioned if he was wasting his time. His ranch was already on the verge of collapse, and he had little energy or resources to spare on a horse that seemed so broken. Yet, something about Rose kept drawing him back to her. Her dark, soulful eyes were filled with an intelligence that he couldn't ignore. While the other horses were content to follow instructions, Rose seemed to be processing everything around her, as though she was quietly observing and understanding more than anyone gave her credit for. There was an energy about her that was hard to explain, and Jake couldn't help but feel that she was somehow special. Every evening, after a long day's work on the ranch, Jake would find himself sitting next to Rose. He'd stroke her neck, his fingers running through her thin coat, and talk to her about the ranch, the weather, and even his worries. Rose would nuzzle his hand, and Jake found solace in her gentle presence. It was as if she understood, as though she could sense the heavy weight of his heart. There was an unspoken connection between them, one that went beyond words. Weeks passed, and Rose's condition remained precarious. Jake began to accept that maybe the filly wasn't going to make it, no matter how much he tried. But one evening, something shifted. As Jake entered the stable, expecting to find Rose lying down as usual, he was stunned to see her standing, on all fours, her body no longer trembling with weakness. She looked different, as though a new energy was coursing through her. Jake took a cautious step toward her, his heart pounding with hope. To his amazement, Rose didn't stagger or fall. She took a few tentative steps forward, then another, and before he knew it, she was walking around the stable, her movements steady and confident. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The weak filly had somehow found the strength to stand, and Jake couldn't help but smile. It was the first sign that maybe, just maybe, Rose wasn't as lost as everyone including himself had thought. Still, Jake remained cautious. He knew better than to get his hopes up too high. But as the days went by, Rose's condition continued to improve. Her legs began to strengthen, and her coat, though still thin, took on a healthier sheen. She started eating with more vigor, and even began to play with the other fillies, something she had never done before. It was a slow transformation, but it was undeniable. And in those quiet moments when Jake watched Rose move, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something remarkable about her. Something hidden beneath the surface. The weakest of the three had shown an unyielding spirit, and Jake couldn't help but wonder if she was destined for more than just survival. Weeks passed, and Jake's quiet hope for Rose blossomed into a belief that, against all odds, she might be capable of more than anyone had ever imagined. But it wasn't until one fateful afternoon that the true nature of Rose's strength began to reveal itself. Jake had been out working the fields when he noticed something unusual from the corner of his eye. Rose, who had been trotting around the stable, appeared to be moving in an almost graceful, deliberate manner. He paused, wiped the sweat from his brow, and squinted to make sure his eyes weren't playing tricks on him. He knew that Rose had gained some strength in the past few weeks, but this was different. This wasn't just a filly walking, this was something more. Curious, Jake dropped his tools and walked over to the stable, his heart quickening with each step. As he approached, he saw Rose performing something that looked like a well-executed maneuver, one that Jake had only seen the more seasoned horses at the neighboring ranches perform. She was turning, her hooves hitting the dirt with precision, her movements coordinated and purposeful. She seemed to glide rather than stumble, and for the first time, Jake truly saw her potential. "Rose," Jake called softly, not wanting to startle her. The filly paused, her head swiveling to face him with a gaze that seemed almost knowing, as if she recognized that Jake had just witnessed something incredible. And in that moment, Jake realized something that both amazed and bewildered him. Rose wasn't just a weak, sickly filly trying to survive. She was a horse with extraordinary potential, with skills that had been hidden beneath the surface all along. At first, Jake thought it was simply a fluke. Maybe she was just feeling stronger today. Maybe the movements were an accident. But the more he watched, the clearer it became that Rose was not only learning quickly, she was excelling in ways that no one would expect from a horse of her background. She seemed to have an instinctual understanding of complex maneuvers, as though her body had been trained in ways that went beyond mere survival. And then, in an almost surreal moment, Jake watched as Rose effortlessly performed a flawless spin, a movement that, until now, had been out of reach for any horse on his ranch. Jake's mind raced as he tried to piece together what he had just witnessed. He had never seen a horse this talented before. Her weakness had been a facade, a mask that hid a remarkable natural ability. And there was only one possibility that made sense: Rose was special. She was no ordinary filly. She was descended from a long-lost breed of horses, a rare bloodline known for their exceptional agility, intelligence, and ability to perform complex tricks. Overwhelmed, Jake spent the next few days observing Rose more closely. He started to test her with more intricate movements, turns, spins, and even jumps, and each time, Rose performed flawlessly. The transformation from the weak, stumbling filly to the graceful, skilled horse was nothing short of miraculous. Rose's secret had been hidden all along, buried under layers of weakness, but now it was clear. She had inherited the extraordinary abilities of her ancestors. In the quiet moments after these discoveries, Jake couldn't help but feel a deep sense of awe. Rose had proven him wrong, but in the best way possible. She was not just a survivor, she was a gem waiting to be uncovered. And Jake realized, with a sense of excitement and disbelief, that his journey with Rose was only just beginning. The filly who everyone had written off as worthless was destined for greatness. As Rose's extraordinary abilities became more undeniable, Jake found himself standing at a crossroads. The once weak filly, now an elegant and skilled creature, had transformed into something beyond his wildest expectations. Her natural grace, agility, and intelligence surpassed even the most seasoned horses on his ranch. Jake's mind raced as he considered the possibilities. With Rose's newfound talents, Jake realized that his ranch could be saved, not through crops or traditional livestock, but through the extraordinary filly who had captured his heart. Word began to spread through the local community about Rose's remarkable abilities. Neighbors and fellow ranchers, who had once ridiculed Jake for buying worthless fillies, were now eager to see her perform. At first, Jake showed them small tricks, simple turns and spins, but Rose's brilliance went far beyond what anyone expected. It became clear that she was no ordinary horse. She was a rare treasure, one that could fetch an incredible price in the right hands. Jake's thoughts turned to competition. He had heard whispers of prestigious events where horses with specialized skills were showcased, events that drew the attention of wealthy trainers, buyers, and horse enthusiasts. Jake, once hesitant to even think about such things, now felt a spark of hope. This could be his chance. His last chance. With some reluctance, he decided to enter Rose in one of the upcoming competitions. The competition was fierce, filled with horses that had years of training and experience behind them. But Jake had something they didn't, a filly with an innate talent that no one could have predicted. As Rose entered the arena, her small frame seemed to glow with confidence, her every movement a testament to the skill she had hidden for so long. When the event concluded, it was clear that Rose had not only impressed but had outright stunned the judges. She executed each trick with flawless precision, her movements sharp and effortless. The crowd was speechless, and even the other competitors couldn't help but acknowledge her brilliance. Soon after, bids began pouring in for Rose, far higher than anything Jake had ever imagined. The unexpected fortune was real. But instead of selling her off immediately, Jake made a decision that would change the course of his life. He chose to invest the prize money back into the ranch, rejuvenating the farm and securing its future. Rose had given him more than hope, she had given him a future. In the months that followed Rose's incredible success at the competition, Jake found himself in uncharted territory. His ranch, once teetering on the edge of failure, was now experiencing a remarkable transformation. The prize money from Rose's victory had given Jake the chance to breathe, to rebuild. But more than that, it had given him a renewed sense of purpose and the belief that things could change for the better. Jake decided to reinvest the prize money into the ranch. He purchased new livestock, upgraded the barns, and expanded his operations. He had always been proud of his family's ranching legacy, but now he felt a new kind of pride. He was building something of his own, something that had the potential to thrive and grow in ways he had never imagined. The days of scraping by were behind him, and with each passing week, his confidence grew. But it wasn't just the physical changes to the ranch that marked Jake's new path, it was the shift in his own mindset. He had always worked hard, day in and day out, but now he understood the value of patience, trust, and care. Rose had taught him that. She had been written off as worthless, dismissed as a weak filly with no future. But through his belief in her, and his willingness to see her potential, she had proven everyone wrong. And now, Jake was determined to do the same for his ranch. Rose became the heart of Jake's operations. Her talent wasn't just a way to make money, it was a symbol of everything Jake had fought for. He continued to work with her, pushing her to perform in new ways, entering her into more competitions, and showcasing her incredible skills. Each victory, each performance, added to her legend. But even more than her accomplishments, it was the bond between Jake and Rose that stood as a testament to everything they had overcome. Soon, Jake's reputation as a skilled trainer began to spread beyond his small community. Other ranchers came to seek his advice, and many offered to buy horses from him. Rose's success had drawn attention, but it was Jake's deep understanding of horses and his unwavering belief in their potential that set him apart. His ranch became a sought-after place for training, and soon, people were traveling from all over to learn from him. Jake wasn't interested in selling Rose. She had become more than just a horse to him. She was a partner, a companion, and a living reminder of how far he had come. He knew that her extraordinary talents were a gift, but they also represented something deeper, something that couldn't be bought or sold. Rose had taught him that true wealth didn't come from money or material things. It came from trust, patience, and the willingness to see the hidden value in the world around you. As the years passed, Jake's ranch flourished. His business grew, and his name became synonymous with quality, integrity, and perseverance. He expanded his operations, breeding and training horses with unique abilities like Rose's. The once struggling ranch was now a hub for people seeking to buy exceptional horses or learn how to train them. Jake had gone from being a man at the brink of losing everything to a rancher at the forefront of a thriving industry. But despite his success, Jake never lost sight of what mattered most. His bond with Rose remained the foundation of his life. Together, they had not only saved the ranch, they had built a future. The ranch, once in danger of fading into obscurity, had become a beacon of hope, proving that even the weakest, most overlooked creatures can carry a secret that changes everything. In the quiet moments at sunset, standing beside Rose in the fields, Jake knew that the future he had once doubted was now more certain than ever. He had found his purpose, and with it, the strength to build something lasting, a legacy of hope, resilience, and the belief that the most unexpected fortunes often come from the places we least expect.